Hello and welcome to your Fantasy Premier League one-stop shop. I'm your host Stephen Gallagher, world number 3 in points totals over the past 3 seasons. Today we're looking at all the key points for Game Week 26, how to handle the upcoming blanks and doubles, chip strategies, the best defenders, midfielders and forwards to buy, fixtures to target, optimal rotations, captaincy and more. If you've been watching on YouTube and have been enjoying the videos, or if this is your first time watching, consider subscribing and dropping a like. We're aiming for 500 likes on this video and for 4,000 subscribers before the end of the month. And if you're listening on audio, then rate the episode 5 stars if you enjoy. Let's get straight into it, starting with the injury news. I'm recording this before the Liverpool-Aston Villa match to finish off Game Week 25. For Liverpool, Joe Gomez will miss the most of the rest of the season. Gakpo is close to being back, but will miss the Aston Villa fixture. Let's see if he's back in time for the Man City match in Game Week 26. And Curtis Jones is back after serving his 1-match suspension. For Aston Villa, Kamara is out for the Liverpool match. Bailey is also a doubt, and Matty Cash and Konsa are close to being back, but still a doubt for the Liverpool match. For Arsenal, Kai Havertz is set to miss the rest of the season with a hamstring injury. They played Trossard up top with Sterling and Nwaneri on the wings last game. Then some positive news for Arsenal here. Arteta is hoping to have Saka and Martinelli back after the international break after Game Week 29, so they could even play in Game Week 30 against Fulham, which will be interesting for wildcarders getting Saka in. For Man City, Ruben Diaz, Grealish and Ake have all trained ahead of their Champions League second leg against Real Madrid. There was some concern for Haaland after he went down, but apparently he's all okay. For Spurs, Son and Bentancur both have knocks, but they should be fine according to Big Ange. For Chelsea, Noni Madueke went off injured against Brighton, which means himself, Jackson and Mark Giu are all out injured, and Nkunku is the only striker left to play up top. And finally for Brighton, Lewis Dunk is a doubt after going off injured against Chelsea in the FA Cup, then missing the Prem game against Chelsea, but no update on him since then. On to the blanks and doubles schedule. This graphic by Ben Crowlin shows us where the blanks and doubles will fall with different levels of certainty, so shout out to him for putting this all together. As you can see, the next blank on the horizon is in Game Week 29. The teams blanking are Aston Villa, Liverpool, Newcastle and Palace. A lot of people will be free hitting that game week, but if we look further ahead in the season, we can see that there's a bigger blank game week coming in Game Week 34. So if you can save your free hit until then and then navigate the blank Game Week 29 with free transfers, I would recommend doing so. Then you can wildcard after the blank Game Week 29 in order to prepare for the upcoming doubles, which you can see double Game Week 32 is confirmed for Newcastle and Palace. Then double game week 33 is a massive double game week with many teams predicted to double there. So bench boosting that game week looks nice, but I'd also recommend using your assistant manager chip from game week 31 to 33 if you still have it, which gives you 5 fixtures if you go for Eddie Howe or Glasner. But if you use your assistant manager chip already, like myself, I still think bench boost in Game Week 33 is a good option. If you still have your triple captain chip left, then either of the doubles in Game Week 32 or 36 are good options, as well as Game Week 28 when Salah plays Southampton at home. I know it's a single game week, but it's a great fixture for Salah. Next up is defenses to target using our fixture difficulty ratings and defensive strength ratings over the next 5 game weeks. First in the rankings are Crystal Palace. They do blank in Game Week 29, so keep that in mind, but the fixtures around that blank are really good. Ipswich at home in Game Week 28, Southampton away in Game Week 30. If you have Munoz, I'd try to hold on to him for those fixtures at least, and with double Game Week 32 in mind as well. But if you already have a few players blanking in Game Week 29 and don't plan to use your free hit, I'd avoid bringing in any Palace players with that blank in mind. Second in the rankings are Man United, and the fixtures are definitely there for them. Everton, Ipswich the next 2, and then Leicester in the blank game week 29. It's very difficult to suggest going for Man United defenders with their defensive record, but what I will say is that if you already own the likes of Mazraoui or De Ligt, then I'd be tempted to hold with these fixtures coming up. And we'll see in the next section that rotating them in and out of your starting 11 is definitely an option that you should consider. Third in the rankings are Liverpool. Again, another team that blanks in Game Week 29, so keep that in mind. They do play Man City and Newcastle in the next 2, which is far from ideal, but around the blank they play Southampton at home in Game Week 28, then Everton at home in Game Week 30, and those fixtures are really nice. So if you own any of these Liverpool defenders, then consider holding them over the blank. Obviously, it's team dependent on how many other players you have blanking in Game Week 29. If it means holding your Liverpool players until 28, then getting rid of them in 29 and wildcarding them back in Game Week 30, then that's also an option to consider. Fourth in the rankings are Bournemouth. Their upcoming fixtures, really nice. Their defensive record isn't necessarily the best, but they are all quite cheap and the fixtures are definitely there. Kepa, Kirkes and Huijsen are all great picks, and if you're strapped for cash, I really like Huijsen at his price. Fifth in the rankings are Chelsea. The Game Week 27 and 28 fixtures are Southampton and Leicester, both at home. It really doesn't get any better than that. However, Chelsea have been leaking goals for fun. They haven't kept a clean sheet since Game Week 17. My advice would be to hold on to your Chelsea defenders if you have them, because there's some really nice fixtures in the mix there. Sixth in the rankings is Wolves, but that's not a defence I'd suggest targeting. However, they do play in Game Week 29 and there's some nice fixtures there. Then seventh is Fulham. Their defensive data is amazing. They're actually ranked third in the league for expected goals conceded per 90, but they only have 4 clean sheets this season, which is a massive underperformance. With that Wolves fixture and then playing in 29, I definitely recommend holding. And finally, 8th in the rankings is Arsenal. The upcoming fixtures are really nice for them. We know how good they can be defensively. West Ham at home, then Forest away in the next 2. I did say last week that if you're thinking of getting an Arsenal defender, then last week was the time to do so with the match against Leicester, and they got a clean sheet. But I still think they're a good pickup this week. Gabriel is the one to go for from them, but Timber and Raya are also solid picks. Just a quick one on defences to avoid. Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton all at the bottom here, but just above them are Newcastle, Villa and Spurs. Newcastle and Villa both blank in Game Week 29, and Spurs' fixtures are really tough besides the Ipswich game this game week. I think the difficult fixtures and the blank coming up make Newcastle and Villa defenders an avoid for sure. But Newcastle obviously double in Game Week 32 as well, so if you have the likes of Lewis Hall and you bought him really cheap, so have a lot of money tied up in him, then holding in that case is okay in my opinion, as long as you can bench him over the blank Game Week 29. Next up is our defender rotations, where I've run a model that calculates the optimal defender rotation over the next 5 game weeks. Crystal Palace and Man United rank in first here, and it's a really nice rotation. You get Man United against Everton away, then Ipswich at home, then Palace against Ipswich at home, followed by Man United against Leicester away, and Palace against Southampton away. You'd be doing really well to find a better defensive rotation than that. Next up is attacks to target using the fixture difficulty ratings and attack and strength ratings over the next 5 game weeks. First in the rankings is Liverpool. The next 2 fixtures aren't ideal and they blank in Game Week 29, so if you still own Cody Gakpo, I understand selling him now for the likes of Wissa or Cunha. He obviously missed the game for the double and we've heard he'll miss the Villa game too. Personally, I also think holding him is okay if you have other fires to put out in your team, because the Man City game could have a lot of goals in it. If he's fit for that, I'd expect him to get something there. And that Southampton home fixture is the best you'll get in terms of fixtures to target, so just make sure you have a plan for what to do with them before the blank Game Week 29. Second in the rankings are Chelsea. Their attack has been far from potent recently and a lot of people are shipping out Cole Palmer. Personally, I'd still hold on to Palmer if you own him. He plays Southampton and Leicester at home in Game Week 27 and 28, and he doesn't blank in Game Week 29. What more could you ask for from a fixture perspective? I just think selling him is a little short-sighted. And then there's also Nkunku to consider. He's been playing up top in Jackson's absence. He hasn't had any goal contributions since filling that striker spot, but he could be one to consider with these fixtures coming up. Third in the rankings are Bournemouth. Their fixtures are really nice and they just keep on scoring. The question we've been asking is which Bournemouth attacker to go for. Last game week, each of these guys returned. Dango got a goal, Kluivert and Semenyo both got an assist, so Dango is in the lead as we speak. I think all of these are great options, but my personal preference is still Kluivert as he's on penalties, followed by Dango because he's playing out of position as a striker, and then Semenyo because he's so consistent with his minutes and with his returns. Fifth in the rankings are Palace. Mateta is in great form, 7 goals in 6 games. Their upcoming fixtures are also really nice. Obviously, they do blank in Game Week 29, but if you can plan accordingly and keep this man in your squad around that blank, then you'll be in a great spot, as he's also a really good differential, only 8% owned as we speak. He's definitely a hold with those fixtures and with his current form. Sixth in the rankings is Man City. Marmoush just bagged a hat-trick last week and now everyone wants him in their team, and fair enough, he is a cheap Man City forward. And we saw how prolific he could be in the Bundesliga. Now he's showing he can do it in the Prem too, although it is just one game. But he's definitely offering some good value there. And then Haaland, he's also finding a bit of form, although not enough to justify his price tag in my opinion. I still think he's way too expensive for the returns that he has been producing. Maybe he'll change my mind, but for now, I think if you're going for a City forward, Marmoush is the pick. And finally, a quick mention on Wolves. They're 12th in the rankings, but a lot of people looking to get Cunha in this game week. Gakpo to Cunha is a very popular move. I just don't think it's the ideal entry point. Game week 29 is when the fixtures turn for the better, but I do still like getting him in this game week as it's quite a good long-term move, and as we've seen, he can score against anyone. He scored against Arsenal last game week, so while getting him now may not be the best entry point for him, I still really like him as a long-term pick. On to the attacker rotations. As you can see, the model really likes Crystal Palace's fixtures. My favourite rotation here is Palace and Brighton. For Palace, you can rotate Sarr or Mateta, but he may be a bit too expensive to rotate. And then for Brighton, you could rotate Mitoma or Minta. They're both in good form. With that rotation, you get Brighton against Southampton away, Brighton against Bournemouth at home, then Palace against Ipswich at home, Brighton against City away, and then Palace against Southampton at home. So some really nice rotation there besides that City fixture for Brighton, of course. On to the stats review, where we analyse the best performing players statistically in every position and combine that with the fixture difficulty ratings. Players in red are the most expensive and in green are the cheapest. For goalkeepers, we're looking at expected goals conceded per 90 against the defensive fixture difficulty rating. At the top of the plot, we have Onana for United and Henderson for Palace with the best upcoming fixtures, followed by the West Ham goalies, then the Wolves goalies, and then Kepa Arrizabalaga has a really nice blend of fixture difficulty and expected defensive data here. On to defenders, we're looking at non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 against the defensive fixture difficulty rating multiplied by the team's defensive strength. Crystal Palace players at the top with Munoz the standout option in terms of his goal involvement. Man United also in the mix at the top there with Dalot the most attacking. Then Trent for Liverpool, clearly the best option, and looking good here is Kirkez at Bournemouth, Cucurella at Chelsea, Aitnery at Wolves and Robinson at Fulham. On to the midfielders, we're looking at non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 against the attacking fixture difficulty ratings. Again, Crystal Palace players at the top with Sarr ahead of Eze in terms of their expected data. Bournemouth players not too far below. As we can see, Dango's expected data has been really good. Chelsea players next up with Palmer the best pick. For Liverpool, Salah has the best expected data. Also looking good here, lower down, are Minte at Brighton, Garnacho at Man United, Shade at Brentford, and Barnes and Murphy at Newcastle. On to the forwards, Haaland in the bottom right here. As I discussed already, he's not doing enough to justify his price tag for me, and he's skewing the price colouring system here, so let's remove him from the plot to get a better perspective of the pricing of the rest of the forwards. Mateta at the top here, really good fixtures and great data. He's a great asset to own, but beware, he does blank in Game Week 29. After the Palace players, Cunha looks good for Wolves, Gakpo for Liverpool and Vardy for Leicester. In the far right, we have Watkins and Isak, the two premium options, putting up great data there. And then Wissa as well. For his price, his expected data is insane. Really good value, and the fixtures are decent too. I'd say Cunha and Wissa are the standout Gakpo replacements if you're looking to move him on. On to captaincy. In the first spot, I have Salah. He plays City away, so not the best fixture, but he is the best player in the league. If you don't fancy the matchup against City, there is space this game week to switch it up a bit. And in second, I have Mbeumo against Leicester away. The fixture is there, but is the form there? He's not exactly been lighting it up recently. Only 1 goal in 5 games, and it was a penalty. But if he was going to return to form, you'd expect him to do it this game. Leicester have only kept 1 clean sheet this season, so Mbeumo could be up for a return to form here. In third, I have Isak against Forest at home. Not the best fixture, in fact far from it considering how good Forest defence has been this season, but we know what Isak can do on his day against any defence. It's hard to look past him any game week really. In fourth, I have Kluivert against Wolves at home. Bournemouth are a goal machine at the moment, and Kluivert's a big part of that. He's on pens, the fixture is good, he's got my 4th place spot, followed by Trossard in 5th. He's playing up top with Havertz and Jesus out, up against a leaky West Ham defence at home. It's a nice fixture and he's a big differential captain shout, but I think he could produce the goods this game week. On to my Game Week 25 review. The game week is actually still underway. As I said, I'm recording this before the Liverpool-Aston Villa match to finish off the game week. I've still got Salah and Slot to play, currently on 57 points. A small 15k green arrow as we speak. We'll see if that arrow remains green after the match. My transfers worked out really well this week, to be fair. I got Raya in for Sanchez, who got a clean sheet and a bonus point. And I got Kluivert in for Sarr, who got an assist. And then I got Wissa in for Jackson and benched Gakpo. Wissa didn't return, but he got 2 points, which is more than Gakpo or Jackson will get. So a 12-point gain on my transfers there, which is really positive. But we did use all 3 of my free transfers, so let's see what we're working with next game week. For Game Week 26, I've got 1 free transfer and 0.7 mil in the bank. All my defenders play at home, which is always good. I got Raya and Gabriel against West Ham at home. I'm hopeful for a clean sheet there. Then Kirkes against Wolves at home and Robinson against Crystal Palace at home. In the midfield, I've got Rodgers against Chelsea at home, Salah against City away, Mbeumo against Leicester away, Palmer against Villa away, and Kluivert against Wolves at home. And then up front, I've got Wissa against Leicester away and Isak against Forest at home. Then on the bench, I've got Fabianski, who won't play. I've got Gakpo against City away, who I'm currently benching for Rodgers against Chelsea at home. I just think if Gakpo is an injury concern, it's not worth starting him for a short cameo, and Rodgers plays Chelsea at home, who have been very leaky defensively. I could also just transfer Gakpo out, but I only have the one free transfer and I want to use it on slot, which I will discuss. And then finishing off the bench, I have Hall against Nottingham Forest. Also considering him or Robinson who to start. And then finally Castagne against Crystal Palace at home, finishing off the bench. And then on the sideline, I have Arnie Slot. And he is the man on the chopping block this game week. I do think Liverpool will beat City, but it's definitely not a sure thing. And I want to make the most of the assistant manager chip. It's so powerful. So I could play it safe and go for Arteta against West Ham at home. But I'm much more tempted to go for Glasner against Fulham away because that gets the table bonus opportunity, but only if Villa don't beat Liverpool this game week. I did say when the assistant manager chip got announced that my favourite strategy would be to go for 2 safe picks, and then in the last game week or one of the game weeks, go for a bit of a riskier pick, try to maximise the points there. So I went for Slot the past 2 game weeks. Now it's time to risk it. Slot to Glasner will be the move if Villa don't beat Liverpool, or if they do, I'll go for Arteta instead, as I don't fancy any of the other table bonus opportunities. So we'll wait and see how that match pans out. I won't have a deadline stream this Friday as I am traveling with work, so if you have any transfer questions, leave them in the comments below. That's all for today, folks. Go ahead and drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and rate 5 stars on audio. Until next time, guys, have a good one.